Hello guys, this is Captain Frugal reporting for duty, and one must ask themselves what happens when a person wants to create their own comic book series and their own television series, but yet they don't have the backing of a major company. Do you just quit, or do you do it yourself? And that today is the focus of this video, a look into Heroineburgh. Heroineburgh. It's an original live-action superheroine video series that's based in Pittsburgh, which is also a comic book series and a comic strip in the local area. The premise of this series was that a dark energy meteor explodes above Pittsburgh, causing genetic changes in the XX chromosomes. This causes dozens of women to become supercharged with superhuman powers. The ladies that use their powers to help the city form the none other than Superheroine League, endorsed by the mayor and the police department liaison, but the women who use their abilities for evil are recruited by a secret cabal called the Black Faction, whose goal is to discredit the heroines and resume their crime and corruption in the area. The characters in this series represent various neighborhood ethnicities, professions, and subcultures of the city of Pittsburgh. The stories deal with some serious topics, but the mood is generally light and campy. Their tagline that's used is action, adventure, comedy, and romance, all in the finest spandex, masks, and capes. This franchise started first as a live-action superhero video series, but later they decided to turn it into a comic series. The live-action episodes have been steadily released since 2017 and are available for download from the website. There are currently 17 episodes available at the time of this video, and the series is in the middle of its second season. The comic book that came by the same name, Heroineburgh Comics #1, is the first comic book of the series, telling stories which occur in and around the episodes of the video series. The comic book is available from their website as well as from over 24 stores in Western Pennsylvania, West Virginia, New York City, and they're expanding across the continent to select comic shops which support independent creators, including outlets in Texas, Alabama, California, Arizona, Illinois, Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky, Quebec, and Israel so far. The comic book cover art in this particular issue have been created by Jason Wright, which is a DC Comics colorist. You can see some of Jason Wright's work from titles such as Green Lantern, which was done with Ethan Van Sciver, Batgirl, Detective Comics, and The Secret Six. The interior art of this and the lettering is by Benjamin Zeus Barnett, and the back cover pinup is by Marcel Walker. Now you know I butcher names, so if I butcher those, I do apologize. So let's talk about this. Let's review each one of these components and talk about what they are and what my thoughts are about them. The series takes place in a science-based universe where there already are some super-powered characters. As I mentioned before, a meteor exploded, releasing a massive wave of dark energy that activates dormant epigenes in hundreds of citizens. These people develop various powers based on their own desires and interests. The dark energy exhibits a proclivity for the XX chromosome, so the majority of the new superheroes in this universe are female. Many decided to use their powers for selfish or nefarious purposes, or just don't know how to control or harness them. About a dozen women randomly emerge from the various neighborhoods, professions, ethnicities, and sexual orientations. So if you're one of those people that say you like diversity and want diversity, this just might be the series for you. Some of these people resolve to use their powers to benefit society and become the superheroines of Pittsburgh. As their adventure unfolds, the Steel City garners fame as the global epicenter of the epihuman activity. The first season of Heroineburgh chronicles their origin stories and how they eventually assembled to form a united front to battle those who'd exploit such powers against humanity. Now that we have an understanding of what the series is about, let's look at the inspiration that started this. Heroineburgh was born from a lifelong enjoyment of comic books, superheroes, and science fiction, and it was jump-started by a recent interest in TV shows, movies, and new comics featuring brilliantly portrayed superheroines. Locally, they were inspired by a stage production called Pittsburgh Batman, which reimagined the Gotham mythos, steeped in hilarious Pittsburgh Eurism, if you will, but didn't have any prominent female characters. These influences combined to set the team on a course to create something that had never been done. A superhero action series featuring all female protagonists, set not in an imaginary city, but in their actual hometown with all of its colorful locations and vibrant neighborhoods. I must say, for the last 2 years, this collective of comic book enthusiasts from Pittsburgh has taken on quite an ambitious independent superhero project, combining the talents of dozens of actresses and creators. Now you have to remember, this is an independent venture, so there's quite a range of acting skills on display here. Sometimes the acting seems over the top. Reminds me of classic superhero stories, as well as Batman, the 60s television series. Don't get me wrong, I sort of like it. Everything seems light and fun, but I will say if you prefer dark superhero dramas that everything is serious, this isn't really going to be for you.
Oh my god! I'm in the retro video game part of the internet! I don't see a way out or... No powers! I can't travel through cyberspace! I'm trapped here!
Well, that takes care of your little friend. I think it's about time for you to say your prayers. Mine is the last face that you are ever gonna see. Whoa! Thought you were down for the count.
Nope, I just rebooted my backup systems. This suit has a failsafe, which means you fail.
Whoa! I can't stop her magnetic powers. I better split.
Don't get me wrong, I sort of like it. Everything seems light and fun, but I will say if you prefer dark superhero dramas that everything is serious, this isn't really going to be for you. Now, if you were hoping to see some big Hollywood production or even high-end television production, you're probably going to be a bit disappointed. Remember, this is an independent project. There are no expensive set pieces or major jaw-dropping special effects. And the costumes, though, are quite well done, I have to say, considering the budget. Remember, these aren't big named actors as far as I know either, or should I say actresses. These are people that are more down to earth. None of this really distracted me, though, from enjoying the show for what it is. Remember, I'm watching it, I'm realizing, okay, I'm watching this as a lower budget project. It sort of reminded me of being a kid. When I was a young boy, a couple of friends and I, we would pretend to be making movies or television shows. And when we actually got a cheap camera to borrow and use, we would actually film those. And, of course, they don't really show up like we imagine in our heads, but there was a level of enjoyment. Sometimes there's just something to it, to watch something that doesn't have the biggest budget and everything, just for a good time and a good laugh. Now, if you know anything about recording with a modest budget, there tends to be some problems that arise around those recordings, and one of them was the sound recording. Sometimes the dialogue could be a little hard to understand and get, but once again, that's due to budgetary issues and probably mic placement. Now, overall, Heroineburgh web series is a pretty fun surprise. You're not going to get any super high tech, fast paced, mega action, mind blowing special effects scenes. But what you will get is something that's fun and clearly ambitious. This was a project that was obviously made by people that are passionate about superheroes. You know, I have to say, I like watching this just to sit back, relax, turn my brain off, and enjoy something. Once again, if you're looking for something super mega high top tier quality, this probably isn't for you. But if you want something a little more down to earth and just a little tongue-in-cheek fun, this series might just be to your liking. Now let's turn and look at the comic book. The Heroineburgh superhero comic book is based off of their original video series. The book is 20 pages, and I will say it's a very thick stock. The cover art is by Jason Wright, and the interior art was by Benjamin Zeus Barnett. The first issue includes 2 stories that have related conflicts. The first story has character Mersima, where she compromises the League, as well as discovers Arcana's real identity. Then she hypnotizes Arcana to create powerful demons for her dreams. I do enjoy the story. I find it a fun, light approach. The villains are smart. They're not just going to go stupidly and attack all the heroines. Instead, they're planning and they're conniving, and I like that. So let's talk about a few other things here. Each character, I find, has a unique costume that distinguishes them from the rest of the cast. So that's a nice thing. They each have that heroic look. There are many characters here to follow as well, and the book shows you at the very beginning in the cover who some of these characters are. Now, I find this to be a very helpful thing, especially if you are new to the series and you don't know who they are because you haven't been watching the video series. So it's a great part that's a complement to the video series too, because you can either read the comic first or watch the videos first, and I think it's either way going to give you a good idea. Now, granted, probably watching the video series first at the very beginning and understanding the origins is probably best, but I didn't do that. And I will say, by picking it up and being able to see those characters and understand them that way by reading about them, it really did give me a big help in understanding the series. Now, continuing on, let's talk a little bit about the art. I thought the cover art was quite good. I really like the picture. It gets my interest right off the bat. You know, so many people talk about we don't have enough female heroes. Well, I don't necessarily agree with that. This book really does put a focal point on that, and that's nice. A nice change of pace, because throughout the comic, it never was about feminism. And what I mean by that is, you can be a feminist perfectly fine. But there's a difference between that and a radical feminist, and we tend to, today, get a lot of radical feminism, which is women are all that matters, men are terrible. I never got this from this book. What I got is just a tried and true, these are superheroes that happen to be female, and I think that was a good move. Now, I will say I did enjoy the cover art more than I did the interior art. But I'm not saying that the interior art was necessarily bad. It was a more cartoony style, which is okay, and I think it works for the comic book. But I don't know, I almost think that this comic book could have benefited from more of your more realistic style, maybe, because then it would match the video series a little bit more. So overall, I'm going to give the cover design 8 out of 10. The interior design, for me, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. So let's talk about the comic then in general. Overall, I was pretty impressed by this. The paper was very good. The book is sturdy. I'm not worried about reading it and having it fall apart like some that you might get that are made by an independent company. I never had that feeling from this. It actually has a good feel of quality, and I like that. I also think that Shevik is doing a good job with this series, and I really do wish him some major success, because it's got to be very hard starting from the ground up, probably with a shoestring budget, creating a video series as well as trying to develop a comic book, and both of them are interrelated, and I think that's really cool. So overall, if you want something that's top end, mainstream, this isn't probably going to be for you. But if you don't mind checking out indies and wanting something a little different, I think this just might be for you. The comic series is really showing some promise here. The comic strips are interesting. The characters are interesting. So overall, I think this really has some promise if they can continue to go and build from here. Well, I hope you enjoyed this review. I hope you found it interesting as well as a nice insightful peek into the Heroineburgh comic book series as well as videos. And I strongly suggest just check it out for yourself and see, because I don't know about you, I'm looking forward to some more amazing stories, and I think this is going to be something good to sit down, relax with a cup of tea, and just enjoy it for what it is. Well, thank you for watching, and I hope you hit like and subscribe and check out their website and check out this product. Until next time, keep it frugal.